Hello, I'm Mary Morgan. I'm the reader in couple psychoanalysis at Tavistock Relationships, and I'm going to say something about why I think relationships are difficult for all of us, but also why they matter. First of all, although all of us might think we like being with other people, it's not always easy being with another person in an intimate couple relationship. It can challenge who we are or think we are. We discover that what we think of as reality or the truth might not be how the other person sees it. Being with another means being changed by the other, and unless there are brick wall defences against the impact of the other, we inevitably are. Secondly, there's the difficulty of understanding and being understood. Quite a bit of the time we don't understand each other. We think we should be able to, and indeed some couples feel there should be perfect understanding in a relationship. It can be difficult to accept that there are limits to how much we can understand or be understood. But for some couples, this feels catastrophic, that something is seriously wrong with the relationship. Thirdly, we have to manage the disappointment of the other being not quite who we imagined. Most couples manage the disillusionment that comes from moving from the in-love state to hopefully a deeper connection, but some do not. Alain de Botton, in an article for the New York Times in 2016 called "Why We Marry the Wrong Person," writes, "We marry to make a nice feeling permanent. We imagine that marriage will help us to bottle the joy we felt when the thought of proposing first came to us. Perhaps we were in Venice, on a lagoon, in a motorboat, with the evening sun throwing glitter across the sea, chatting about aspects of our souls no one ever seemed to have grasped before, with the prospect of dinner in a risotto place a little later. We married to make such sensations permanent, but failed to see that there was no solid connection between these feelings and the institution of marriage. We need to swap the romantic view for a tragic, and at points comedic, awareness that every human being will frustrate, anger, annoy, madden and disappoint us, and we will, without any malice, do the same to them." For some, this disillusionment becomes a real stumbling block, as the other never lives up to or embodies the partner's fantasy of what they need them to be, and the disappointment about this becomes a paralysing force in the relationship. These are some of the difficulties about being part of a couple, so why might we nonetheless need relationships? First of all, we're not able all of the time, if ever, to function as whole, integrated people. But being part of a couple allows for some regression, but a regression that can lead to further reintegration and development of ourselves. The early writers at Tavistock Relationships describe the ways that we might choose a partner in whom we unconsciously recognise aspects of ourselves. These aspects are parts of ourselves with which we are not at ease, and as a consequence, split off and project into others. In the early stages of a relationship, unconsciously recognising parts of oneself in the other can be a very powerful experience. And the potential of being able to get into closer contact with distant or lost parts of the self, which over time may be reintegrated into the self, thereby enriching it, may feel risky, but also creates a sense of possibility. This might be an unconscious component of the in-love experience and needing to be with the other, who may psychically seem to be one's other half. Second reason we might need relationships is to do with sex and creativity. Sex is usually much more interesting with another than by oneself, because it's more unknowable and less predictable. Because our sexuality as infants can't be mirrored by our mothers in the way other feelings can, there remains something unknowable and enigmatic in our sexuality, and we can discover it through another person later in life. As well as this, we need two to create a baby. I don't mean this so much in a biological sense, although that is true, regardless of different sexualities and the way that parenting is configured. I mean it more in a psychological and symbolic sense, that two people coming together in the context of an adult intimate relationship can produce between them what they could not alone. This is clearly crucial in parenting, but more than that, it's important for all of us in the way that we relate to others in the world. So these are some of the reasons why we might want to be in a relationship, but also why we might fear it, and sometimes find being in a relationship very challenging. But we might discover that in the safety and intimacy of a good relationship, we can work through unresolved aspects of ourselves and discover more of who we really are and be less driven to reenact the past. We might also find that engaging with the difference and otherness of the other leads to new outcomes, thoughts, ideas, solutions that we could not have arrived at on our own. I'm saying all of this because studying couple relationships and working with couples who are struggling with their relationship, should you choose to do it, will have quite an impact on you, challenging but also hopefully enormously enriching, which is why so many of us, students, qualified therapists, staff and ex-staff, keep involved in all sorts of ways at Tavistock Relationships.